What's going on, guys? This is Joshua coming to you live from the gaming closet.
What's up, Danger?
I'm here to talk to you about what Battlecore is, what the Tamer Series is, and what you can get from it. So we sat behind the scenes for a bit, and we kind of talked about what we wanted to share with you guys, what we want you to know about us, and decided to do a small little video on what that is. And so I'm not going to waste any of your time. I'm sure you have other games you want to be playing. You want to be getting that Digimon TCG practice in. You want to be playing Apex. So we're just going to hop right into it. I'll let you guys know what we are, what it is we're trying to do. And we'll go from there. So to get started, Battlecore. What does this BC stand for? BC is for Battlecore. We are a group that is trying to make a competitive scene for card games. Now, we're not talking competitive as in, you go to a one-time event, you compete, the games are good, etc., and then it's done. We're talking competitive as in Battlecore's main goal is to create a sports feel for trading card games. So when you look at things like esports is competitive, yet at the time that we were growing up, you never imagined that it would be competitive. But here it is. We have teams competing in Dota, League of Legends, Pokemon is competitive on some level. This is what our age is about. It's about competitive. There are people at young ages who want to compete and have a sports-like feel. And if other things can be sports, why can't card games be sports? And that's what Battlecore is. Battlecore is trying to make the competitive TCG aspect a sport in the same way that poker is a sport, in the same way that video games are now sports. So what does that mean? What that means is when you come to a Battlecore event, it's not a one-time event. Of course, we're going to be hosting one-time tournaments. That's not going to go away. But the overall goal is to make a sports scene. And that is kind of where the Digi Tamer series was inspired from, right? So I don't know if any of you are familiar with LOL. I imagine that everyone's familiar with LOL. But on the off chance that you are not, LOL is a 5-man battle MOBA battle arena type game where you and your 4 comrades log onto the Rift and you go do battle with each other on the Rift, where the goal is to get to the other end and destroy the other team's nexus. Now, that in a sports sense looks kind of like football, right? They have a series that runs. You compete in a certain number of games per weekend for a certain number of weeks for a certain length of time. Look at all those certains in here. I'm going buck wild crazy. But the point in saying that is, at the end of that, you have a record. That record determines whether you transition into the next phase of the event. So in football, you transition into the playoffs. In League of Legends, you transition into a playoff bracket, which ultimately leads you to Worlds. That's what we're trying to emulate, that type of feel. We're trying to track, decks. We're trying to track different types of play styles. So when you play certain types of games, what are you doing more? Are you getting grade stuck? Are you riding up successfully? What is your Vanguard? What is your trigger rate? In Digimon, what is your Digi Evolution rate? These are the things that we're thinking about as we try to make Battlecore more of a sports feel. We're going to be having things that we're tracking in order to kind of give it that sports feel, where you can follow someone and say, hey, I see Joshua's playing red this weekend. His rate with red is X. Typically, he plays decks that are very aggressive. Typically, he doesn't digivolve that much in the deck. Well, it's the percentage. So in football, I take you back to stats like the quarterback rating, right? The completion percentage, things like that. These are the types of things that we're thinking about, the types of things that we're trying to incorporate into Battlecore. So when you participate in a Battlecore event, you know that the event was more than just you competing. It means something to you. It means something to your value as a player. It means something in the grand scheme of what Battlecore is and what the Digi Tamer series is. So the Digi Tamer series, while I'm talking about it, is set up to be like a series type of event where there's going to be qualifiers for you, and in each qualifier, the top 2 players will get an invitation to the series, where the series is going to play more of like a football playoff, LCS, League of Legends type thing. You're going to play in a set number of matches each weekend, and then based on the outcome of those matches, you will qualify for the finals. The finals is going to be held like a championship day. The top 4 players from the playoff series, which happens after the qualifiers, will compete on one day for trophies, cards, mats, etc. And along the way, during the qualifiers, we have mats Digimon Crest, etc. So there are prizes at each level of the event, leading ultimately up to the finals where you will be able to win those fantastic prizes, right? So that's what's in it for you, and that kind of gives it the sports feel. When you go to the Super Bowl, there's a bigger prize than, when you were in the playoffs. In the Super Bowl, it's the Super Bowl trophy, and the Battlecore series is the championship trophy, along with several other things that you can get out of this. And we're going to be tracking those things. We're going to be keeping track of data for you. We're going to be keeping track of very specific types of data, not including just what decks were played and what decks are winning at what percentage. We're keeping track of information, hopefully on an individual level, during the series, so that the viewers who watch the series are able to look at it and go, Joshua's doing this well, Joshua played X last week, Joshua is primarily this type of player, and it really lets you get to know the players who are competing and, develop a fondness for them, right? Someone in League of Legends, there are people who like to follow Cloud9 because they like what Cloud9 is about. So, not to keep referencing the League of Legends, but that is really one of the best examples that I have for people at this stage of what we're planning. So, we have a lot of people that we're partnering with, a lot of people that we're working with to try to make this happen. If you're in the HD Gaming Discord, we've done some stuff with them just recently. We have been working with Gyro Sean from Gyro Sean Plays. Shout out to him for really supporting what we do and helping us move along and being a little bit of what we do. If you've seen our last video, he gave some tips to the players as far as how to get started in Digimon. Thank you to Gamers Heaven, who is another place that's been really instrumental in helping us get to the point where we're ready to host this first event. Shout out to EOTG for supplying us with some of the equipment and things that we've been using. So we're partnering with a lot of people and a lot of different places in order to bring this to you. And ultimately the goal is to create, again, a sports competitive type of environment for you, the player. It's not about us. We are players and we are going to be competing in separate events. So some of our guys are competing in an event this weekend, and we're going to continue to be competitive. But because we're competitive players, we believe that we know and we hope that we know what competitive players look for, and our goal is to provide that to you on more of a long-term basis. So again, not that one-off tournament where you compete and that's the end of it, or that one-off tournament where you compete and then there's an invitational or a final or what have you, and that's the end of it. It really is going to be like an ongoing thing. So thanks for watching the video. We hope that you want to be a part of it. Come on over and join. At the time of recording this video, there were free spots left for the Digi Tamer Series for the Tournament of Friendship weekend. So hopefully you were one of the ones who were able to snag one of those spots. Shout out to, some of our closest friends who donated money to make those free spots available. And maybe we'll be having more of this, in the future. So thanks for watching the video. Shout out to Gyro Sean Plays. Shout out to Andrew from Replay Works. Shout out to EOTG. Shout out to Gamers Heaven. Thank you all for supporting us and really being behind what we do. And we'll have more stuff coming up later. Did you think it was over? It's not over yet. So, some additional information I just want to throw at you guys in case you're wondering what makes the Battlecore event different than a normal event. Let's talk about how the scoring system for some of those other events are run. Normally when you participate in an event, you have your win-loss record, you have points, and you have Bashols. What Bashols is basically a separate point system that's the culmination of how your opponents played in the event. So for example, if we go 4-1, Bob goes 4-1, Jacob goes 4-1, right? Then if we're all the same, how do you determine who's better? Well, they're going to look at the strength of your opponents. So they're going to say, okay, well, Jacob played, 3 people. Those 3 people continued playing. Those 3 people kept doing well. So that means that Jacob is the stronger player because even though Bob played and went 4-1, Bob's people didn't do so well after that game. Some of them dropped. And so the people who dropped are not affording Bob any additional points. So Jacob continues to earn points. Bob does not. You're both 4-1. And then Jacob gets the edge over Bob because Jacob's people continue to do well. When people feel like they have nothing left to play for, they don't want to waste their time anymore competing in the event. So now your tiebreakers are messed up because people dropped out of the event. and you don't have anything working in your favor. So the dream is to go undefeated, where no one else matters, because why would they matter? You're undefeated. You don't have to worry about tiebreakers with anyone else. But for those of you who drop a game and now have to worry about those tiebreakers, you spend the majority of the tournament concerned about your opponents, whether they kept playing, whether they dropped. You're probably looking at the scoreboard repeatedly to see what their records are like. Well, the Digi Tamer Series uses a little bit of a different system in order to determine what your tiebreakers are like. I don't want to give out too much information on it, but to give you a little bit of insight, and especially for the players who played in the Tamer Series last weekend, thank you for supporting us, by the way. We start with the score, because obviously every game is worth a certain score, and then we go into wins. So all of the games are best of 3. You are afforded points on each individual game win, not just match win. So, you get record for game win. That's the next one. After that is game loss. So you're not afforded points for the game losses. You actually take a negative for game losses. So now let's say I and Jacob are both 4-1. The quality of my 4-1s were all 2 zeros. The quality of Jacob's 4-1s were all 2 1s. Well, Jacob has more losses than I have, so I, as a player, am better than Jacob. Not because Bob, the mystery person, dropped out of the tournament or didn't do that well, but because I naturally am better than him by way of being undefeated in each individual match win versus his match wins, which were 2 1s. We have the same number of game wins, so then it looks at game losses. He has more game losses than me, and so I'm a better player than him. Now, in the event that that is the same, then and only then do we look at a bashols. And then what we do to make sure that it's fair is we use median bashols. So we take the total points of those players, we subtract the highest seeded player in your match history and the lowest seeded player in your match history. We average those points, and that's how we determine what your bashols is like. So if Bob goes undefeated and you lost to him, you're not being carried by Bob, because no one knew you were going to play the undefeated player that day, right? You just got lucky. So Bob's not included, but the lowest player is not included either. So if that guy dropped because he didn't do that well, you're not being penalized because he's not there. We're taking the average of the remaining players, and that's how we determine who is seated higher than the next person at that point. In regards to individual matches, the point system, you have a chance to earn a total of 7 points. What that means is you get 3 points for a match win. So I love Jacob. I don't know who Jacob is, but Jacob's the guy right now. So if I play Jacob, I win the match, I get 3 points. Now, let's go into the individual games. I won game 1, I get 2 points. That's 5. I win game 2, I get 2 more points. That's 7. So there's my 7 points for the win. You always have the opportunity to earn 7 points per match. In the event of buys, you get the full points for the buys, 7. However, it does not count as game wins when it comes down to tiebreakers. So again, I told you that the first thing we look at is game wins. If I'm 4-1, Jacob's 4-1, I have 8 game wins or let's say 8 game wins. Let's say I got swept. I have 8 games on. 8 game wins. 2, 2, 2, and 2. 8. Jacob has 6 game wins because he won 3 games and got a bye. He's 4-1, but he has less game wins than me because he got the bye, so now I'm seated higher than him. Because we reward you for playing the games and winning. If you get a bye, you still get the points. You don't have to worry about being penalized for the tiebreakers or anything like that, but you don't get the perk of the game wins because you didn't play anyone. So that's a little bit about how the point system works. Now, in the event of a tie, you are afforded 1 point, which is less than the game win, right? So the match win is worth 7. It's broken down by 3 for winning and 2 for each match game win. 1 point for the tie, which is less than the game wins, and obviously 0 points for losses. So that's how the point system works. The reason we decided to use this point system is so that players are rewarded for each individual game win. So let's say you lose to someone, but you lose, 1-2. Let's say you lose to the next person, but you lose 1-2. You still earned 4 points. You never know if that guy's going to do bad. You never know if he's going to have some dead draws. You don't know if he's going to play the number 1 seed and lose, but you earn points along the way, so you always have that comeback potential. So players have more, leverage to want to keep playing after they lose because you're earning points towards the bigger goal, and you are still capable of topping despite losing because you get something out of the loss. So that's what makes the Battlecore scoring system different than some of the typical scoring systems or some of the more well-known scoring systems that you've seen, is that those scoring systems primarily do your individual score, so whatever the tournament is allotting you for points for each win, and then the shoals, right? There's no in between. There's points and the shoals, and that's it. So, this kind of gives you some more leeway as far as what your games are worth. So, now I'm done. Don't forget to join the Tamer Series. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.